Halloween is going to see the release of Dragon Age: The Veilguard. And like all those weirdos in the office who love dressing up, there's something wrong here. Okay, if you like dressing up at the office party, good for you. And no, I've never been forced to go to one, just wearing regular clothes saying I'm a serial killer. Or have I? But I don't know about you, but Dragon Age: The Veilguard just seems to be a little off. Here are some of our top concerns. Consistency. Works of fiction require consistency. On top of that, there needs to be something unique and interesting about their lore. An inconsistent world is just a bunch of useless random events. And if there's nothing unique and special about the lore, then it's just any generic story. And nobody wants to dive into a generic random story. How do you connect yourself to those characters and those events? With Dave, Dragon Age: The Veilguard, essentially forgetting everything that happened in Origins, DA2, and the vast majority of Inquisition, this becomes a reset. But Outpost peeps, you say, this is all the way up in Deventer. It's a new story. They can do this. It doesn't matter whether Hawke died in the Fade, Morrigan drank from the well, Morrigan had a kid, who the Ferelden king is, or even if the Circle and Ferelden survive. And if this was a standalone story, I'd certainly say you got a point. However, BioWare decided to muddy things up by bringing back Morrigan, Varric, and Harding. Oh right, they're even going to bring back the Inquisitor. This defies common sense. Why wouldn't you finish the Solus story with the person you started it with? The one who has the ties, the history, the motivation. To suddenly shift this off to someone else is even worse than what happened in Inquisition by leaving out the Warden. Are we to believe that nothing that happened during the Blight, Morrigan's possible god kid, her drinking from the Well of Sorrows, her quite possibly going through that Alluvian with the Warden, will have no bearing on the world, let alone Morrigan herself? And what about Varric? His connection to Kirkwall, to Hawke, who got left in the Fade? Is Hawke still there? Depending on your actions, he was rather torn up at the loss of Hawke. Harding, I hate to say it, is rather insignificant in this. She didn't really play much of a role in Inquisition. But there's no way you ignore what the Inquisitor did, what the Inquisitor has been pursuing, to shift that off to somebody else and have them just go away somewhere, or however they write them out of the picture. No, giving us a Varric look-alike with Brian Bloom's voice, he's only Varric if his past matters. Same with Morrigan, same with all of these. And ultimately, the same with Dragon Age itself. If the past doesn't matter, it's just a story called Dragon Age: The Veilguard. But what about the argument of, it's really not for you returning fans, we're trying to snag new people. We kind of expect the old fans to buy it just because, and there certainly at times seems to be this expectation, if not perceived obligation, for the old fans to buy it, while at the same time being told, if you don't, we don't really care. And they don't care because they're looking at those fans of Fortnite, God of War, and all these cool mobile games and saying, if we can just get a fraction of that audience. Man, oh man, I've been in those meetings. Your company has a really good chance of moving forward with its own product, making its own profitable niche, but dang it, if the owner of the company isn't absolutely bent on getting a fraction of somebody else's audience. We can all look out at the business landscape and see the littered corpses of companies that have tried this. And not just little companies. Heck, remember New Coke? If you're not bringing something unique and interesting to the table, why should I change what I'm buying over here for yours? David Gator and James Olin spent a lot of time crafting this universe. And while Gator may be perfectly happy to see it all flushed down the toilet, and he certainly did his fair share of flushing during Inquisition, gee whiz, Dragon Age Awakenings was bad enough and started the flush fest. Just the way Oghren treated the joining was bad enough. But new BioWare is determined to make a new version of Dragon Age for a new audience, despite history saying that's not really smart. And how about that combat, with Mark Darrow saying it's actually fun now, completely dismissing anything that anybody might have liked about the previous games, especially Dragon Age Origins. They've stripped almost everything Dragon Age from the combat system. And despite them touting the differences in being a rogue or a warrior or a mage, it looks very rinse and repeat to me. Have a companion or your character apply a condition, detonate that condition. Do that again and again and again. And let's make sure that our mages play more like a rogue. It certainly seems like the play style is only going to differ in what bright, pretty colors are going to clog up the screen so that you can have no idea what's going on. And yes, let's talk about those bright, pretty colors. Origins, DA2, and to some extent, Inquisition did not feature such psychedelic bright colors. Those muted colors, even in combat, kept the world grounded. It didn't feel like you were playing a cartoony game. Honestly, I'm surprised we don't have giant words coming out saying pow, bam, blam. It feels excessive, not something Dragon Age was in the past. And finally, in a list that frankly could go on for a while, let's end it with the giant 400 million pound elephant in the room. That character creator. It's an abomination. It's hideous. It's atrocious. It's unbelievably horrid. When I make my guy, because my first playthroughs are usually guys, I want to make a cool hero with a square jaw, wide shoulders, the kind of guy who could wield those two-handed swords they always have in these games. And when I make a female character, I want her to look like a female. And this is where the message gets in the way of everything. It's likely in the way of an awful lot more, but never is it clearer than this character creator. Corinne Bush said that the game was inherently queer and was going to be a safe space for that community. Problem is, that's not a very big community, and I don't think there's a good example of that community selling a lot of video games. So when you exclude the ability to make beautiful people, and you force the users of any persuasion to make the characters of your preference, and in this case, very trans-like characters, you throw inclusion right out the window along with sales. If they'd allowed you to make anything you wanted, including a trans character, not too many people would be all that upset, though those top surgery scars are very disturbing. Now, if I can make what I want and you can make what you want, then we're all going to be happy. Unfortunately, the message is more important than the game. It's unfortunate that politics have to come into everything, and we can't just have really good entertainment. Woohoo, that got a little heavy there at the end. What do you think? You picking up Veilguard? Or maybe going to wait for it to become available in that bargain bin? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.